Welcome to episode 73 of Think Big with Michael Zellner. All positive, no politics. My guest today is John Morris. John is the executive director of brand at Club Colors. The brand promises, quote, right solution, right place, right time, unquote. Club Colors does that through a holistic approach to marketing, apparel, promotional product distribution, and decoration. John is also the host of the podcast In the Club by Club Colors. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for coming on. Tell us something interesting about yourself that most people don't know.
Wow. Whenever I get asked that question, I tend to lean towards family because I think it's, the healthiest thing that you could possibly get into. My immediate family, my siblings, I'm the youngest of 6 kids. Grew up with a very successful father and a mother who was the CEO of the family who raised 6 kids that are pretty affluent and successful. And then on my immediate family, I'm married with 3 boys, 15, 13, and 10. My oldest is a singer and a great student and is probably the most selfless person I've ever met. He's just absolutely fantastic and a great leader for his little brothers. And my middle guy's a all-star baseball player. My youngest plays baseball. I coach his 10U team, but he is absolutely a beast on the football field. That's his thing.
That's awesome. Good for you. Yeah. I'm glad that you're able to spend time with the family and be able to coach. I know that means a lot to you.
Yeah, it does.
What are some of the best memories from your childhood that, still make you smile today?
It was interesting. I was actually talking to somebody. I shared a cab with a gentleman in Las Vegas to the airport. He was going back to Atlanta. So we're just kind of small talking. And so my father was an executive for Kraft Foods, and he had 17 promotions in 35 years. So we got moved around a lot. And one of his key moments in his career, he was at the headquarters of Kraft Foods out in the suburbs of Chicago. And he had done so well that he got promoted to take over the Southeast region of Kraft Foods. Part of that package was he got season tickets to the Atlanta Braves, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Atlanta Falcons. So I was just kind of small talking with this gentleman in the cab, and he was asking about what it was like to go to all those Braves games. Did you catch all that playoff run? And I was like, no, it was between 85 and 89. So we were catching some of the lesser teams, the Dale Murphy teams and Glenn Hubbard and Ozzie Virgil and Bruce Benedict before they had, Maddox and Smoltz and all those guys. But I was sitting front row right behind the Braves dugout for 4 years. Literally right behind the Braves dugout, and being, 10 to 13 years old in that range, the players see a kid sitting there, right? So every time they come off of the field, they throw a ball to, somebody sitting in the stand. So I have a box of baseballs sitting at home. But what was really interesting about that is I was at Phil Necro's, remember the old knuckleballer?
Yeah.
I was at his last game. And I got interviewed I think I was probably 12 years old. I got interviewed on TBS by the late Craig Sager. Craig Sager went on to, do all of the NBA basketball games and wore the real colorful ties and so on.
Right.
And he was coming down to interview folks of what the experience was like to be at Phil Necro's last game. So he interviewed somebody that was, in their late 70s, somebody that was middle-aged, and then he wanted to get a child in there, and I was the child. So we went to the game and then rushed home, and, cell phones and those types of things didn't happen. So my dad stopped at a payphone, called my mom, said, make sure you put a VHS in and record the news. So I was on the news getting interviewed, which was pretty cool.
Do you ever go back and watch any of the videos of those games?
I can't find those videos. I wish that I could. I don't know where they are. They might be at, my parents' house. My parents were not, photograph takers or video takers. So there's a lot of things that we did as children that just kind of have to live in memory. I don't have a whole lot of those pictures and photos. We were very much in the present people. We were doing things. We weren't recording them and going back and looking at them. But that was a pretty interesting thing. I got a lot of fantastic experiences like that of being on in the newspaper, on the microphone, or getting interviewed by Craig Sager at a young age because of the experience that my father provided for me through his success.
Foreshadowing to where you are today.
Yeah, right. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went to college at the University of St. Thomas and
Mm-hmm.
studied business administration and management for a couple of years, and then you transferred to Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois, where you said you studied, quote, life school of learning from my mistakes,
Yeah.
unquote. What were some of those mistakes that you had made that you learned from?
Well, let's unpack that for a second, right? So I went to St. Thomas to play baseball.
Okay.
And so I had battled through high school to get into the starting lineup. By the time I ended my senior year, I was batting leadoff and playing center field. We went to state. We took fourth in state that year. The coach had been trying to get me recruited, right, to go play. And I wasn't good enough to play Division I or Division II, but I was a solid player. I think I batted 380 or something like that my senior year.
That's awesome.
And my thing was mainly defensive. I could run them down in the outfield pretty good and throw guys out at second if they tried to get a double. But I was always too small. I was always the grit guy, right? I was always going to be the guy that was going to stay after practice and take fly balls and all that stuff. So interestingly enough, get there, and my head coach in high school had spoken to the head coach there at St. Thomas. I get there, I walk in like, I'm your new center fielder. The guy's like, I don't know who you are. So the coach that had recruited me had been terminated and a new coach was in. So I had to literally like start over. So I got to like the first few practices, kind of like the tryout type practices. And the kid in front of me was all everything in the conference. He was 6'2". He was only a year older. In fact, if my freshman year, he got drafted, he didn't accept, but he got drafted in one of the late rounds by the Mets out of Division III baseball. Right. So pretty big deal. Yeah. So, I was on the team for about 2.5 weeks. I mean, I don't think I even made the team picture. Right. I just was like, this is enough. So I ended up staying there for 2 years, and then I went to Illinois State. And so the questions, interesting enough, I'm ADHD, right? And I'm dyslexic. So school for me was always a challenge, very, very difficult. The way that the curriculum was set up, the style of teaching, not consistent with how I learn. You give me something to go home and read and then test me out the next day, I will fail it inevitably. If you sit down with me for 15 minutes and show it to me, you'll never have to say a word to me. I'll ace it every time. I have to be shown things just the way that my brain works. Well, at St. Thomas, it was a small private Catholic school, and it's 35 kids in my class. So I could go up to the teacher and say, hey, can you explain this after class? When I didn't learn anything in the hour that I was there, I would go up for 15 minutes afterwards and essentially get all the knowledge I needed, and I was fine. I went to Illinois State, much bigger school. First class I walked into was in an auditorium with about 250 kids. And my ADD, ADHD just went berserk. I mean, my head was spinning. And I've failed miserably, just could not succeed in that environment. And the lesson that I learned out of that is you don't always plug in to the norms of a corporation, the norms of society, the norms of curriculum at a university. And at a very young age, not being mature enough, I got caught in the undercurrent and just kind of fizzled away. And what I learned from that was you have to advocate for yourself, and you have to stand up for yourself. And no matter whatever process you're in, you have to figure out a way to design a system that works for you within that bigger curriculum. The world is not going to stop for you and essentially make sure that you make it. So if you go to a corporation, you go to a new role, you go to a university, you might find yourself in a position where what you thought you were getting or what you were expecting is completely different. And you can't allow yourself to get caught in the undercurrent and be washed away. And that's what I allowed myself to do. Now, the good thing out of that, when people ask me what I majored in finding my wife. So I could go through this phase of saying, man, if I would have stayed at St. Thomas, my life would have been so different. Man, if I would have gone and played golf instead of baseball, which I probably should have done, my life would have been so different. The reality is, if I can say that to the cows come home, but I wouldn't have my wife right now, and I wouldn't have my 3 beautiful children. And at the same time, I also wouldn't have had the adversity that I've had to overcome that has kind of defined who I am now. Nothing comes easy to me. This does. This comes easy.
Right.
But I had to go through a lot of pain to get to the point to be able to do this, and nothing else came easy. So, I think it's a good indication too for a lot of folks who look at people on social media, look at people at organizations and go, oh man, they've got it so easy. They make so much money. They do so well. They're blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, you don't know the backstory of all the pain they had to go through, and the failure they had to feel and the adversity they had to overcome, and how they maybe had to tuck that and hide that and not expose that as they were on that journey to get to that point where now it looks so easy. It might not be that easy. Great things aren't easy.
Very true. So, you came out of school in 1999. You got a job as a senior sales executive with Integrated Business Analysis Limited, where you managed a team of salespeople, and you were with that company, I believe, for a little bit over 15 years.
Yeah.
First off, how did you get such a big job in management, so young, and what motivated you most about that job?
Well, that goes back to that grit thing, right? And not having a choice. So one of the things that's amazing about coming from a very successful family with and being the youngest with very successful siblings is you get a seat at the table just by the fact that you're one of the children. You get a seat at the table, so you get the lessons. But I came up with a father who was old school. That his money, his success was his. We got to share in it, but it wasn't. We had to work, right? So when I called up my father my senior year of college and told him that I was leaving college, no degree, failed out, and I was going to go be a stand-up comedian, you can imagine how a conservative, successful corporate Fortune 50 company executive would take that. He didn't take it well. I'm going to assure you that. There was a lot of tears in that phone, and they weren't coming from him. So when I got into that mode of I'm going to be a comedian, I had to figure out how to make money during the day, because when you're starting off as a comedian, you probably spend more at the bar before you go up on stage than they pay you. So I had to figure out what I was going to do. So I started selling promotional cruise tickets on Lake Michigan, door to door, paintball park tickets, door to door, as events, ways to get people to bring their sales team or their friends out, whatever. And so they would give me, it was a total pyramid scheme, but it was good for a 22-year-old. So they would give me, $400 worth of inventory, whatever I sold, I got to keep half of. And whenever you sold it, you can come back and get more if you wanted to. Well, I gotten so good at it within a month that at 22 years old, I think I made $82,000 or something like that, knocking on doors, selling these tickets. And I would go back sometimes 2-3 days to get more tickets because I would clear out my inventory by 10. So I went, okay, well, I'm pretty good at sales. Well, my friends started to say, hey, man, this is cool. You're making money, but there's got to be something bigger and better. Comedy surely was not working well for me. I wasn't doing well with that. And it was a horrible lifestyle for me. So a friend of mine referred me to this organization. I went into the inside sales department. I remember I went in on like a Wednesday, got interviewed, and I got hired. They told me to come back on Thursday. I wore the same outfit. I only had one suit, one dress shirt, one tie. So I called my mom. I said, hey, I just got hired by a consulting firm. She goes, what consulting firm would hire you? Right? Like, you don't have a degree. What are you going to be consulting them? I said, no, I'm doing inside sales. And so essentially what we were doing was we had a telemarketing department would write leads for outside salespeople. The outside salespeople would go out and meet with the business owners, They would attempt to close the business owner. They had a 2-week period to work that lead. If they didn't close that lead would go cold, right? It just was the way that they were. And because we were so front end intensive creating new leads, it was better to go into new leads than to follow up on the old ones. The old ones got real cold, right? So we had a department of inside salespeople, much like myself, that would call the cold leads, the people that said no 10 times. And sometimes I was getting a lead that was, 2 months old, 3 months old, had been called 50 times. And the client literally answered like, what in the world, with very explicit language. Why are you calling me? Right. So I had to figure out how to negotiate that and calm people down and get them back to what the original conversation was. What were their pain points? Why were they in business? What were they? So I got really good at using my humor and my grit and my personality to take a 55-year-old business owner that was pissed that we were calling them and getting them to go, okay, I'll calm down. Tell me again what it is that you do. And I got so good at it that I started being the closer for other people that were struggling. So literally they would get the client to 75% of the way there and it would start to fizzle. They would then hand me the phone. Now I had 2 people that did that for me 6 months earlier. So in about 9 to 10 months, I cash collected $1.2 million in sales in my first year at the organization, which made me a top achiever. They wanted to double the size of the department. They needed somebody who's going to be the brand guy that could recruit, which was a lot like the boiler room type of recruiting. I would recruit 10 at a time and get them in the training class. I can recall at a period of time, they wanted, 20 people in the training class, and one training class, I had 50 people in it. In 2 weeks, I found 50 people to come in on straight commission to do the job. So I more than doubled what the number was. So the owners were listening to a call that I was having with somebody and went, we need that guy in the role. So I got moved into the executive role. I was managing 60 straight commission salespeople, running 5 leads a day. They go out and meet with the business owner. And the rule was that before they could leave that client's office and let the lead go cold, they had to call it in to me. And I would close anywhere from, 7 to 15 of them a day. And the region's budget was, 18, 20 appointments a day set up. And I was closing 7 to 15 per day, where the sales rep, sometimes had it 85% of the way there, 90, and there was just a few questions, or maybe I had to execute a drop close or add some sort of incentive. But some of them were literally like they did a presentation about to get kicked out. And I took the client from all the way to the beginning through the end and got the appointment. And we had to get the client to agree to do it today and to start tomorrow.
Wow.
So I just got really, really good at it. And then from there, it was about how to mature and become a manager. It took me a long time to figure out how to become a manager. Initially, I was a closer and I could get the deals over the line, hit the quota and the budget. But I learned pretty quickly it wasn't about doing for others in that manner. It was about teaching others to do for themselves. And that's how you scale and build the team. If I'm the one who has to close everything, if I'm sick, I'm out, I'm not there, then you don't really have a team. So there was a 2-year period where I actually took a step backwards in quota and percentages and numbers, learning how to manage and get other people to perform 80% as good or even better than I was. And that's how you ultimately build a team. And then we started breaking records.
Awesome. After you work with that company, you work with a few other companies over the next 3 years, and you were miserable because, the top people in those companies, they weren't honest. They didn't have the standards and ethics that you did. And you said you had, 3 pretty tough years because you started working, with Club Colors as a sales manager in November of 2017. And you took a big shot at this, without even knowing this new industry. This is a quote about you. Quote, John has transitioned from traditional sales practices to a new style of social media, communications, and content creation to create brand awareness and brand attention that drives lead generation and influences prospective clients to buy over being sold, unquote. Change is good most of the time, but this was just a huge 180 for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a big time change. I had a very illustrious, successful career and had made a lot of money, but I had no purpose. And I felt a hole in my heart. And quite honestly, I didn't like the style of selling. And sometimes, you get really great at something that you're repulsed by.
Yep.
And that was unfortunate. So I was constantly having a conflict. Every morning when I woke up and I looked in the mirror, I said to myself, how do I go do this today? And I had to fake it. Well, you can only fake it for so long. I faked it for longer than most humans could probably endure. And if I'm going to be completely truthful and honest, it messed with me mentally. It put me into a really bad position. And I suffered dearly from that. Still have probably some remnants of that. When I met Club Colors, it came at a perfect time in my life because quite honestly, I just wanted to be on a team. I had this illustrious career where I had 12 nicknames at the company and everyone knew me. And I was the guy. My name is on every scoreboard at that organization, probably to this day. And I love the people there. And don't get me wrong, 90% of the people at that organization were fantastic. The deliverable that we provided, fantastic. The experience that I had there, fantastic. But there was a portion of it that was just so bad and it made me feel horrible. And I couldn't have my personal brand stand next to that brand, right? It made it very difficult. When I found Club Colors, I was in a very vulnerable position and I just needed somebody to kind of put their arm around me and give me a hug. And so I actually took the sales position at Club Colors for probably half of the salary that I would have normally have taken, with the idea of two things. Number one, I knew I could bet on myself. And number two, I bought into the vision and the team and the fact that it was completely authentic, ethical, energetic, passionate, and wholesome. Just wholesome. I mean, Club Colors is a wholesome place. We are helping organizations to drive their brand message and put them in the best possible light through promotional products and logo design and branded apparel and all the different things that we do on the marketing level. And it's essentially bringing out the pride of an organization by fueling the pride of the people. If the people have pride in the organization, then the brand will shine, because the brand can't tell you how great they are. It's the people that have to feel how great the brand is that they want to tell the world about it. And that was happening at Club Colors, not only as an organization, but doing it for other people and for other brands. So, yeah, it was interesting because I had to swallow a lot of pride. I had to eat some of that humble pie. And I had to put purpose and my mental health and my desire to be part of something great ahead of my financial position. And that is not the easiest thing for a lot of people to do. For my whole life, I had determined who I was and my success was based on my title and my income. And I had to figure out who I was again, or who I was for the first time. And to do that at 40, 42, is an indication to anyone listening to this, it's never too late. There's multiple paths you can go down in life. And if you feel like you're going down the wrong one, you can always stop, turn back, and find a new one. And I did that here at Club Colors. And because of that, it's amazing when you kind of become part of an energetic team and become part of a bigger process and something bigger than yourself and bigger than income. It's amazing how positive things ultimately find you. And part of that is that I found myself, which is good.
You said, quote, tough bounces in life and business are an invitation to showcase agility, resilience, and elite skill. All the repetition, activity, and practice is to prepare us for anything. It's not how good we are when the ball bounces our way. It's what we make of the crazy, unexpected bounces, unquote. How do you stay so positive and energetic when that ball goes out of bounds?
Well, So I'll go back. As I do these, whenever I'm a guest at a podcast, it's interesting. I have this love affair, and my father passed away 4 years ago, but obviously I'm still very deeply wounded by that. Because I mean, my whole makeup is quoting him, it seems, or lessons that he learned. And I guess that's a good thing. But
It's a good
he
thing.
always told me that, and he got this quote from Ben Hogan. So I grew up a golfer, right? I grew up on golf courses. Successful father. We've lived on 2 golf courses, whether we were in Illinois or Florida, right? And so I was always a golfer. He loved golf. It was a great thing for a corporate person, great way to engage with people, and great lessons that could be taught on life. There's a lot of life lessons that are built into the game of golf, right? So Ben Hogan had won the U.S. Open for whatever time he had won it, which was numerous times. And one of the reporters asked him, "What's the secret to golf?" Right? And he said, "Well, it's not how good your good shots are; it's how good your bad shots are." So my dad taught me that lesson in sports, and then he applied it later to business and to life. Um, when you're good, you're good. Like when we go to a restaurant, we expect the food to be good. We expect the experience to be good. That's what we're paying for. What brings you back to a restaurant is when they go above and beyond, or when they make it right because something went wrong. That's a true indication of a brand. That's a true indication of an experience. Is clients, employees, spouses, we all expect things to go right. They don't go right. Things go wrong all the time. The people that have the most success, are most fulfilled, are the happiest, have the best reaction to those things and minimize the bad. They have the right perspective on the bad, and they have the agility to adjust quickly to the bad to make it good. And so I don't know if it's me staying positive, quite honestly. I think that it's that fight or flight thing. I think that I've been in fight mode for a long time. And when you get really good at fighting, you kind of don't know how to go flight, right?
Right.
I should probably quit a lot of things faster and sooner. I probably should. Maybe I'm not smart enough. I don't know, or maybe I just got this belief that you can overcome if you keep going. So from the sales standpoint, if I'm looking at it from a sales standpoint, like every client you talk to is in a different posture, they're in a different position, timing, their budget, their situation, their current love or joy or excitement at the role, even though, if they're not the owner, especially. So just because you present to them and get a whole bunch of pain on the table and a whole bunch of reasons as to why they should do business doesn't mean they're going to say yes at that moment in time. So a lot of salespeople at that point give up. They go, "Oh, it's not a good client." They blame it on the client. "Oh, that's not a good client." They move on. The reality is sales success is in the follow-up. It's in the 5th call, the 6th call, the 7th call, the 8th call. Most people make one call and stop. They don't keep going. So I found success in not only closing a lot of opportunities on the first try because I got really good at the science of selling, the art of selling, and getting all the pain and the challenges out and really quantifying and qualifying that and then making it the client's idea. But where I got really good was dripping on the client and getting them on the 5th touch and the 6th touch to go, "You know what? Nobody else has cared this much about my challenge or my pain and wanting me to resolve it. I'm going to give you the shot." And so if you're in sales or whatever role you're in, if you're looking for a role, or if you want to just look at my experience of going from a very successful career to having about a 6-year period where I was on a world tour of new jobs that I hated and could have given up as my life savings was dwindling. And instead I got an experience where somebody went, "Man, we just love your energy and your passion. We can guide you on the rest." And that's kind of what happened with Club Colors. So the way that I stay positive in all these things is I recognize through all the other trials and tribulations that I've had in life, if you just kind of stay gritty and you keep going, there will be an answer. You gotta keep going.
Quote, "Where is the truth in a perfectly told story? It's overly crafted, unauthentic, and lacking vulnerability. Consumers are people. People love the comeback, the adversity overcome, the flawed characters that do the right thing even when it hurts. We love the who and why more than the what, unquote. I think you said that perfectly there, John. So many people.
Oh, shoot. I wrote that?
Yeah, that was you.
Oh, wow.
So many people on social media only put their best stuff on there. They don't let people see the real them, their real life. They're not very vulnerable.
Yeah.
You think that when someone shows other people who they truly are, what's deep inside, that they'll get a lot more genuine and compassionate interaction with others?
100%, because I can't relate to somebody who only wins all the time. I can't relate to somebody who wakes up every single morning with a huge smile on their face and goes, I can't wait to go to work. I can't relate to somebody that never makes a mistake. I can't relate to somebody who, every sales call they go on, they close. I can't relate to that. I can't relate to a brand that never has adversity. I can't relate to a brand that wants to make me believe that they don't ever have to fire somebody. Like it's the ultimate mecca place. Like every single employee at your organization is happy. BS. No, it's not true. So, yeah, I don't know about you, but I like the stories. I still cry at movies. Shoot, I cry at commercials. I cry at the adversity. I cry at the kid that, has the deformed arm but still plays Little League baseball. Because society told him he was different. He didn't know that until somebody told him. All right. So I just look at it from that standpoint. When you're looking at social media presence, first off, we're all flawed. It gives such a false sense of reality. And it's the reason why most brands and most personal brands don't get started with it, because they look at social media and they look at some of the unbelievable social influencers on there that create unbelievable content, and they've got the text right and the camera's angles are right and the story that is told is just so perfect, and they never stutter, and it's just all right there, right? And they look at that and they go, shoot, I could never do that. Well, what you don't realize is if you went back and scrolled 5 years back to the original piece of content, it was horrible. It was awful. It was flawed. It was the journey. You're catching them at the strong part of their journey. But those people, if you interview them and ask them, they'll tell you the same story. I can't tell you how many times that I have recorded something where I got it on the first take and I went, whoa, that was pretty sweet. I got on the first take. But I also can't tell you how many times I sat here, recorded something 15 times and deleted it and called myself names that you wouldn't call your worst enemy. And I think with whether it be a personal brand or an organization, I think it's important for those organizations to go, look, we are absolutely the best at this because we worked at it, but it came over time and we had to fail, and we took that adversity and we modified, and now because of that, this is what you see. But we didn't just start out that way. And nobody starts out that way in a sales role, in a management role, in an entrepreneurial role, in any type of role where everything just comes naturally and comes easy. It's that story that is endearing, that is magnetizing, and it causes the person who's viewing that to go, that's that authentic fighter that I want to associate with my brand. That person who thrives in the journey, not just the success, is going to strive for the best outcome and is never going to stop until they get it. That relentlessness, that you can't show relentlessness if you're just perfect all the time. Relentless comes from me showing you that I fail and I get up, and I fail and I get up. And those are the people I want on my team. And those are the people that I think others want on their team. And those are the people that, by the way, are human. You can actually communicate with them. And those are also the people that tend to have a really good bedside manner when it comes to management or when it comes to interacting with a client, because they understand that the client wants the glorious outcome, but they're able to explain to them that there will be bumps around on the road along the way, and they're able to manage expectations. Most salespeople and organizations struggle with clients because they don't manage expectations with those clients properly. The client expects, I give you this money, it comes out perfect every time, all the time. That's not the way the business works. And those salespeople and those executives and those leaders that can manage those expectations and help clients through that journey, and can make the bad shots good, right? Those are the companies that you want to associate with.
This goes perfectly into what you said. Quote, doing the uncomfortable repeatedly is the only way to analyze, modify, and improve. Eventually, the uncomfortable becomes comfortable, unquote. When people get used to being in situations that are outside of their comfort zones, is when they become vulnerable. Isn't that where you see that people usually have the most tremendous growth?
Yes. And I got that from a Navy SEAL, retired Navy SEAL by the name of Shane Weatherall, who was one of my early on mentors in my early 20s. And you think that you've had a tough boss in your life, work for a Navy SEAL in sales, and you'll find out real quick. Moreover, be a 24-year-old that's making bank and could do that much better and have that much more of an impact on people, but is just in it for the money. And you're dealing with somebody who was a team leader that saw real action in war and sees that that's something in you that you can't see and wants to get it out of you. He literally put his forearm. Now, he probably never work again, but it was a different time 20 something years ago. He put his forearm up to my chest and put me up against the wall, 24, and said, what do you want to be? And I looked at him. I was petrified. He said, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be like you. He said, okay, so here's how we're going to do it. Right. But he had to break me to get me to realize that it was about, having that relentless attitude and continuing to push and push and push. And so his line was always, if you go to the uncomfortable first, it will become comfortable. If you stay in the comfortable, you will never truly realize or become aware of the ultimate success. So what he always told me was, what's the worst part of the job that you hate the most? And the worst part of the job, I think any salesperson would tell you, was the cold calling. He said, you get that out of the way right away. You go after it. And if I tell you you need to make 50 calls, make 80, right? And you push that. He said, if you win that, everything else the rest of the day is easy. So you pursue the most uncomfortable first. And, easy to say, right? Tough to do. But again, I think it goes back to, we've got this false sense that the most successful people in the world just woke up that way. Like they don't. They fail mightily. You just don't see that part. And they don't put it out on social. So yeah, Shane got into my head in that regard. And that helped me to kind of develop my own 3 pillars, which is mindset, behavior, technique equals success. No matter what, how you wake up, and let's be honest, there's nobody listening to this that wakes up every morning feeling wonderful every morning. I sure as hell don't. I mean, shoot, sometimes I wake up in the morning, I want to hit snooze 50 times. Sometimes when I'm brushing my teeth, I look myself in the mirror and go, I can't do this today. But you got to find something that gets you in the right mindset. So I typically will find something, whether it's music, sometimes just jamming out on the way to work. Sometimes it's listening to a podcast. Maybe this is the one to listen to. But whatever it is, I try and get myself in the right mindset. Right. So once you get out of your car, if you do go into an office, you can put that chin strap on and right, you're in the right mindset. But it all starts with mindset. And then from there, it's, installing the right behaviors. And behaviors, I think, is that repetition, having that relentlessness, repetition, repetition, repetition. That fight or flight, always picking fight. Gonna call one more, gonna call one more, gonna post one more, gonna post one more. And by the way, when you start to do those behaviors that are difficult, they become habitual. And when they become habitual after a certain period of time, you don't even think about it anymore. So it's less painful. You just do it. It becomes a behavior. And then from there, you can start to master technique. But technique becomes less relevant if you have a bad mindset and you can't get the behaviors to do it. You can never get technique down without the repetition. So you have to have the behavior before you could practice the technique. Like, I could teach you all the technique in the world to be an effective salesperson, but if you don't practice it, doesn't matter. It'd be no different, Michael, if you and I went and played golf and you said, "Hey, how do I hit a trap 7-iron?" Right? For an average golfer listening to this, or people who don't golf, are going, "What the hell does that mean?" Well, why do I know what a trap 7-iron is? Because I got in enough trouble early on in my stages of golf to recognize how to hit a low draw 7-iron under a tree and get out of trouble. And I remembered that for when I'm now playing in the wind, against the wind, or I need to hit a weird pin placement. I remember the painful times when I was behind a tree, I had to execute that. Now I can pull it out of my bag and I can hit it any time. Well, how do you do that? You got to go to the range enough times to practice it, where now it becomes, so the technique comes from the behavior. But you can't be motivated to execute the behaviors unless you got the right mindset, right? So mindset, behavior, technique equals success, or sales success, or podcasting success, or whatever it might be. You want to get good at podcasting? Do a lot of podcasts. You want to get good at creating content? Create a lot of content. And once you do that, then you can start to refine the technique and get better.
Louis Berger, owner of Quantum ROI, said, if you quote, "As the CEO of a publicly traded company, as well as other companies, I've had the opportunity to work with myriad sales-oriented professionals at all levels, both in-house and outside. There's no one I would recommend more highly than John Morris in this regard. He has a work ethic of the highest order, as well as similar levels of intellect and problem-solving ability. I found John to have his priorities in the proper order and to exhibit extraordinary people and management skills," unquote. When you hear things like that people talk about you, I know that you're not a guy who does things, for the glory and all that stuff there. You do things because you're passionate about it. You want it. But, when you hear people talk that way about you, it's got to make you feel pretty good.
Well, to be honest with you, I do things for the validation. It's my personality type. I need hugs. I need validation, because remember, I'm that fighter guy that doesn't pick his head up. And every once in a while, yeah, I do need somebody to say, "Hey, breathe. You're good. You're doing really well." Right? I don't pick my head up and look around. Right? So I do need that validation. And he's lying about the intellect part, because the reality is I am not the most intellectual person. And that might be why I'm an effective communicator. The idea of a communication is to take the most complex thing and make it easy for anybody and everyone to understand. And I hear a lot of folks in sales, I hear a lot of folks in boardroom meetings, and I hear a lot of folks on content creation that want to impress you with how smart they sound. I've never been impressed by how smart somebody sounded. I've been impressed by how much somebody gave a damn about me, and it made me want to give more of a damn about them. People don't remember how smart you are. They remember how much you care. And I'll tell you why Lou would write something like that about me. Lou was a successful guy who had kind of semi-retired and was one of my straight commission salespeople out in back when I was in consulting, and he was in Manhattan. And when 9/11 hit, I called his phone probably 50 times and he didn't answer. And I was devastated. And I was at the point where I was doing anything to try and get a hold of this guy, because he, in some ways, I was managing him, but he had become my mentor. He had lived so much more life. He was 40 years older than me at the time. And so imagine this 20-something managing a 60-year-old, right? And I made sure to call him on every birthday. I made sure to tell him how much I loved him as a manager. I made sure to ask about his family. I made sure to show him that I cared about him beyond the numbers that he put up. And if he was struggling and needed something, I was gonna do whatever it took to get him over that hump. So he wrote that, and it's very nice that he wrote that, but he didn't write that because of how smart I am or how successful or how, intellectual I am or whatever. He wrote that because he loves me. And I think that that's lacking in the business setting. I think that it's lacking big time. And I wish it wasn't. I think it's lacking in the world right now too. But Lou went on from doing that to start that quantum company and took off. And he always stayed in touch. He always reached out. He always sent me emails. And it's unfortunate that life happens. And I think that we've kind of, we haven't communicated. I hope that he's still walking this earth. What a beautiful man. If you're out there, Lou, I love you.
That's very nice. I sold Cutco knives when I was in college.
Oh man, I couldn't even get that job.
Yeah. And I did, first year or so, I struggled and then, finally figured it out and did really well, and then went into management. And one big thing about the company, and it's a massive company today. Yeah. They're humongous, and the knives are the best ever. But one of the biggest things was about recognition, trophies, awards all the time. And it was just embedded. And like you, I'm the same way. The recognition was more important than the money. The money came, because of the work and everything, and you got good at it. But the recognition that people got and those college students got, it made them want to stick with the team effort and be around people because they felt good.
You're 100% accurate. And it's part of the reason why this field and this industry is successful, because the reality is that rewards of recognition are something that are, in fact, extremely important to employees at all levels from top to bottom. And I think organizations that thrive, that really grow and really have a bunch of brand champions, they have a significant portion of their budget to make sure that they provide those things back. A embroidered logoed item like this is fantastic, and I wear it with pride, and I like the way it looks and so on. But this doesn't tell the story of what I did last year, right? From a revenue standpoint, or what percentage of profit that I created for the organization, or how I was somebody that carried out the culture at the highest level, or that I've hit a 5-year mark in the organization, and there should be a little bit of validation for those types of things out of loyalty and commitment to the organization. And I think that, companies like you just mentioned that do those things, they get it. They see that. I came up in consulting and then investment banking. And in consulting, very much a sales-driven organization, right? The consultants do absolutely brilliant work, but it's about billable hours. The salespeople have to open the door. The analysts had to go out and essentially break down in detail where those challenges were and sell in the solution. Consultant went in and did it and implemented. And then that's how you retain a client. We had award ceremonies at the end of the year where we had Joe Montana come. We had Kurt Schilling come. We had Henry Kissinger come. We had I won't tell you that Bill Russell came. I got to meet Bill Russell. I was 22 years old, got a picture with him at the Desert Inn in Las Vegas. Bill Russell handed me my award. Could you imagine getting an award handed to you by Joe Montana? I have the picture. I got MVP of the sales department, which was awesome, but it was handed to me by Joe freaking Montana. Can you imagine Joe Montana handing you an MVP award for sales? I didn't care what my paycheck was.
Right.
I mean, that right there. And I still have I just did a home office and got all my old awards out of a box and put them up. And I'm like, my kids were asking me stories, and I'm like, yeah. They're like, Dad, why didn't you show these? And I'm like, well, I kind of put these away because I was trying to find myself in different regards, but I guess I shouldn't put my history away. As I'm trying to figure out my present and figure out my future, I shouldn't forget my past. And it just, now those awards sit there and it's a pride moment. I don't even represent that brand anymore, but what those awards represent is the fight that I had for that brand, the pride that I had for the people at that brand, and the achievement that I had to help clients to get to the next level as well. And I think that organizations need to really look at rewards and recognition beyond a foosball table, beyond, a nice email that goes out. Having something that occupies desk time that is an award, there's something to it. And it lives on forever, and it's a story generator. And by the way, there's people all the time that start to lose their zest. They start to lose their interest. They start to lose that drive. And then they look over at that award and go, okay, it's in me. I can do it again. Right. And it's because it's sitting on their desk. It drives them. So all you organizations out there, if you need somebody to help you out with rewards and recognition, Club Colors has got you covered in that regard. But if you're not doing that for your sales team or your operational team or whatever, you need to set those markers, invest a little bit of money and hand those things out, and then create content about it, which turns into the ultimate recruiting mechanism. People see that and they're like, wow, look at the experience they're creating for their staff. That's pretty cool. A paycheck is great. Paycheck doesn't have purpose. A paycheck doesn't create memories, right? I don't even see my paycheck anymore. It goes right into direct deposit. It's not like the old days, 30 years ago. Every 2 weeks, somebody came around and handed you your paycheck. It was like, here's your award for 2 weeks. Here's your award for 2 weeks. Now, you don't even see it now. Just money's in the account, right? It's like, bleh. Awards and recognition are little bits of validation that keep people's head in the game for a period of time so they can fight the next battle, so they can overcome adversity, so they can have agility, so they can stretch to the next level. And not enough companies do that.
You're right, because I have a little home office that I'm in now, and surrounding me in this office, you can't see all of it, sort of goes my whole life history from, I have my, Cutco awards up on the wall.
Yep.
And a big trophy, my last trophy. I have, pictures of some big bands that played when I had a live music bar. And then I have, awards that I got having a mattress store. And so anytime that I have those moments, what you just talked about, I'll look at those things and say, yeah, you got it. You got it.
And that's the thing, Michael, like, the reality is that you're in a home office. Okay. So how many people are actually coming into your home office right now? Probably not a lot. Right. And during COVID, certainly not many at all. Right. But you had those awards to look around and immerse yourself in your journey, and to be able to have a moment where maybe you're down, or maybe you're riding really high and you're looking for a motivator. Because let's face it, there's two things that destroy productivity: being really, really down, or being really, really hyper excited about your success. Neither one of those are great motivators. Right. Like, people rarely do amazing things after they just did something absolutely brilliant. They're taking their victory lap. So I think it's important to have those things around you for when you're down or you're way up, to be able to go, wow, this is why I'm doing it. This is the journey that I'm on. This is where I'm going. This is where I've been. Look how far I've come. Or, hey, don't give up. I think those things are important. And I'm looking at as I'm talking to you, I'm looking at your stuff in there, right? It looks like a great place to kind of feel a positive energy and do it another day.
It is amazing that you just said that, because, when I walk in this room, it's like it all changes. Like, if I'm not having a great day or whatever, or a great morning, great evening, I walk in here and I'm surrounded by positiveness, and it's exciting and motivating.
It's got to be like a professional athlete, right? So taking an NFL player throughout the week, they've got to deal with the game plan's got to go in. They got to watch film of how they screwed up last week, whether they won or lost. They're not looking at the great things that they've done. They're looking at the things that they screwed up mainly, right? Then they got to go talk to the press, who beats them up, rips them up, or puts them on a pedestal that it was very difficult for them to live up to, right? How great must it be when they can block out all the noise by getting into the noise? So think about 60,000 people screaming and yelling. It goes quiet for them because they're in their spot. There's no press drilling them with questions. There's no film that's pointing out how they're not as good as they'd like to be. Although now they've got the think pads, right? And so they're looking at the play-by-play after they come off the field. But their safe space, the reason why they do it, all the time and effort they put in, is so they can get on that field and smell that grass and block out the noise by being in the noise. And I think for you, or other podcasters or content creators or salespeople or executives or whatever, it's kind of a similar thing. It's like there's all these voices in the head and all these things going on, all these distractions, all these things to, kind of data and reports and all these things that kind of could come out. And sometimes the safest place that you can be is where you make it happen. And that's where you make it happen. This is where I make it happen. So whenever the lights go on, I kind of get comfortable. It's almost like my mind quiets when the microphone goes on. For a lot of people, I think their mind gets really loud, right? For me, my mind is most loud when I'm by myself in silence, right? I like to be out front. That's
There was
when I
a
get
video.
quiet.
I'm sorry. There was a video that you posted of tennis superstar Rafael Nadal in a match. He was returning serve. He hit a ball right back, and it hit a ball girl at center court, hit her smack in the head. And immediately he ran up to her to check on her, make sure she was okay. And it wasn't just a quick check. I mean, he turned around, and he didn't just turn around to resume play. He sat there, spent a few moments with her, made sure she was 100% okay, even gave her a kiss on the cheek. And you said, quote, "Class, character, and kindness to make you smile. There is good all around us. This hit me in the heart. A moment of pain will be one that this child always remembers as a joyful experience because of Nadal's actions. Pain for gain isn't always physical. Perhaps times are difficult in your life and or career. Maybe it's about to turn in your favor," unquote. We know there's so much negativity around us, and most of those things are just well beyond our control. I'm still a big believer that though there's a lot more good people out there than bad people, and it just doesn't get the same attention in our world. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's not sexy, right?
Right.
Good people. It's not good people doing good stuff. It just doesn't sell headlines. It doesn't make things happen, unfortunately, in the media sense. But in real life and in business, it matters. So think of it this way. If you're a manager of salespeople and somebody hasn't hit their number for 2 months straight, and you're going to do a one-on-one with them, you have the option to go in and go, "You haven't hit your numbers for 2 months. What in the world is going on? Like, if you don't hit your numbers this month, we're going to have a really difficult conversation." Okay, there's one option. And by the way, I've had a lot of managers that were that way. And I used to manage that way because that's how I was taught to manage. So I thought that's how you did it. Or what I'm seeing more and more being promoted on LinkedIn and through some great organizations and coaches and all types of stuff is to say, "Hey, you haven't hit your numbers for 2 months. Is everything okay? This is not like you. Is everything okay? What can I take? What can I take off of your plate? What can I clear up for you? How can I throw blocks for you? How can I make this easier?" Right? Now, there is a business element of it. The reality is somebody not hitting their numbers for 6 months, you could be as nice as you want to them, but at some point it's a business. You got to hit your numbers, right? But there's a lot stronger likelihood of getting somebody to actually engage, listen, and react the right way to management if the bedside manner is the right way. You want people to respect you. I don't know that you really want them to fear you. And I think for a long time, people managed out of fear. Now, there is 2 reasons why people do things. They do things out of fear or greed. It's unfortunate. Like in sales, think about it. You're selling on scarcity. You're selling on you're going to miss out. If you don't do this, your competition will have it. Or you're selling on greed. This is going to save you time. This is going to make you more money, right? Fear and greed are 2 major motivators, which is unfortunate. But there's also, some different ways that you can go about fear and greed that are not so abrasive, that really are more human and loving, and we'll get a better reaction. So that post was, normally on a Saturday or Sunday, if I'm going to post, I'm going to try and not make it about promoting club colors or having a call to action like, "Here, click this link and take the." People don't want that on a Saturday or Sunday. They want to laugh, right? They want something that inspires them. They want that feel good kind of a thing. So I saw that post on TikTok. And I just thought, well, that makes a lot of sense because, you could correlate all those things back to business. But the reality is some horrible experience, let's say that a client has with your organization. Let's say you just brought in a client. This has happened to us at Club Colors. Just brought in a client. Or inevitably, anytime we do business with one of our friends and family, like we never make mistakes at Club Colors. I mean, literally our error rate is under 0.5%. But if my sister was to buy 1,000 polos from Club Colors, inevitably, it seems like something goes wrong, right? Or if it's that new client that you just brought in and you're onboarding them, you want to make that amazing impression. And it's like the first opportunity you have with them, it's like you slam the ball off of their face, right? And so you could take that mistake and turn it into such a pleasurable experience for the client that started off horribly, or you could get combative. And I've been at companies where they made the mistake, but the client kind of made a little bit of a mistake too. And then they argued with the client of how much of a credit memo they were going to give the client. Now the clients lost time, lost opportunity, lost their opinion of the organization, and there was no consideration of how long-term this is going to impact the brand. It was like, well, we got to save $1. We can't just give them a full credit. We put all the time and work in. We ordered the product. We can't do that, right? And now that's like hitting the ball off of their face and just going, hey, are you okay? You're good. I'm a professional tennis player. I'm not really worried. You're just a kid running, picking balls up. I'm going to go hit it again, right? So when I looked at that, I thought from a branding standpoint, like he got out of his tempo. He got out of his rhythm as a professional athlete. And if you played professional sports, if you played any sports, there is a rhythm. You're in a mindset. Breaking that mindset could be detrimental to the next few shots, the next few rounds, the next few whatever. He broke his tempo, his pace, his system to walk over and change that little girl's life, which put the crowd in his favor, which they probably now rooted him on and applauded him on, and now we got that energy from them, and it was great press and and it's great across the board. So it creates a great experience. So you think about that from a brand standpoint. When a mistake happens, you could either argue with the client of who made the mistake, or you could go above and beyond, lose some potential money on that, break your system a little bit, and make that not how good your good shots are, how good your bad shots are, make that bad shot become the best experience ever for a client, because the client expects the good. How good are you when things go sideways is the difference maker. Club Colors, we decorate product. We distribute product. There's 24,000 companies that do what we do. So respectfully to myself and the whole team here at Club Colors, no matter how great we tell you that we are, no matter how great the content is, no matter how great the product innovation is that we show you, there's 24,000 companies that could do that. So what's the difference? The difference isn't how great Club Colors is when we're great, and we're pretty damn great. The difference is if anything ever goes wrong, nobody will come over and kiss you on the cheek and make you remember that horrible experience as being a great experience like the Club Colors brand will. That's the difference.
Quote, for a while, I've been chasing happiness. It's not practical. In fact, it's fleeting. We can't be happy during adverse moments, painful times, or conflicts. So I decided to chase joy, peace, and faith in my higher power. We can sustain these no matter the circumstances or conditions, unquote. That's from you. How were you able to make that switch and do, that joy, peace, and faith, that you feel now?
I have no choice, Michael. If you want to know the honest to God truth, I wake up, I'm rarely ever happy. If you want to know the honest to God truth, I am not a happy human. Some of that is because I have a false sense of who I should be versus who I am. Some of it is I have expectations for myself that are far too high, and I don't enjoy the ride. Some of it is I have a level of perfectionist. Some of it is I have such inadequacies that I am so self-aware of and so embarrassed by that it's very, very difficult for me to be happy. It just is. So I got two options. I could just give up, or I could find another way. So the another way for me is joy. You know, happiness, like, in my opinion, happiness is, I don't know how to do it. I just don't know how to do it. But what I can do is I can make a joke in a tough moment. I can find little things that give me joy. I can look at my son and feel pride in that. And I could be miserable, but I could look at my son and feel joy. Right. And a lot of that for me stems back to having to have that faith. Um, you know, I have a pretty strong faith in God, but I'll look at it from this standpoint for people that don't. I would rather believe and be wrong than not believe and be wrong. That's just how I look at it.
I love that.
So I have fear in God, right? So I'm fearful to not believe. So, and I feel God in me. I feel God all around me. I feel God in you. I feel God in this experience. I feel this, and I don't want to turn this into, kind of that type of thing, but you can call God whatever you want to call God. You call it universe or whatever thing, but for me, it's, I believe in Jesus. I believe in God, and I believe in that feeling. So, I don't think we are designed to be truly happy, because I think that there's always something that we're striving for. And sometimes happy is in the future, and you're in the present. So you got to just deal with the fact that you might not be happy right now, and happy's, down the road, but you got to find ways to get through it. So you got to find some joy in some little things that give you a little bit of ramp, a little bit of pop. And I've always found, honestly, when I'm happy, I take like 10 steps back. I take my foot off the gas pedal. So it's always been fleeting. Whenever I've made my dumbest mistakes in life, it was because I was too happy. Whenever, like, I don't know. I'm not designed to be happy. It's weird. It's weird. And maybe it's a good thing. It keeps me on my toes. That's for sure.
I had a psychologist years ago that said to me, I don't want to get you to a place of happy. Let's just get you to a place of being content.
Yeah.
And so, and I always remember that when you were just talking about that came back to my mind.
Well, if you figure out how to map that out, I've struggled with that part too. Contentment has been an issue for me. When I'm content, I fail. So I'm one of those people who just, I'm very high wired. And when I'm going full steam. And when I'm not, I am as great as I can be. When I'm at my top, when I'm at my bottom, I'm one of the worst people you ever meet. I have those gaps. There's a lot of people in the world that might not hit the same levels of energy and passion and excitement and can fill a room and ba 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 ba. They stay here and here, right? So they stay there. They don't have this down here or this up here. I go like this, and in that, some really, really great stuff happens, but it also can be somewhat tormenting in some regards. And that's why I think that it's important to be authentic when you're creating content and post that, because I think there's a lot of people out there listening to this that are the same way, but it's not talked about. You're supposed to be stone-faced and super professional and everything is good and blah, blah, blah. No, that's not how it is. It's just, people have different ranges.
You said, quote, play it safe and allow the world to happen to you, or control your brand destiny with maximized reach and the benefits of playing the marketing long game, unquote. So we'll talk a little bit more about Club Colors. Quote, we take brands to the next level and solve business problems for our clients. We just happen to use branding, marketing, and promotional product solutions to achieve these outcomes on behalf of our clients, unquote. Please, share with us a little bit about how you guys do that.
Yes. So if I created content or if Club Colors created content where we took pictures of the 9 million different product SKUs that we sold, how exciting would that be for you? Would you want to really tune in and pay attention to that? Right. So the fact is that what we sell, as I mentioned, 24,000 other companies out there can sell it. But moreover, in many cases, it's been considered trinkets and trash. It's throwaways, it's giveaways, right? Now, not this piece. This thing's pretty fly, right? Pretty nice. But for the most part, the reality is that we don't focus on the product here. We've got 9 million options. So literally, Michael, if you said to me, can you do this? I would say yes. If you said, can you do this? Can you get me this? Can you get me this? I would say yes to everything. We will find a way to source anything and everything for you, no matter what, how bad you want it, how fast do you need it, and what are you willing to pay for it? We'll find it, though. Not a problem. We will find it. Rarely do we ever say no. We'll find it. So that's not really that interesting, right? What's interesting is the impact that we're trying to have for businesses. So we try to get people to understand that we focus on the business of the business and solving problems within your organization. We just happen to use promotional products, branded apparel, and marketing solutions as the vehicle to achieve that. What does that mean? Client calls us up and says, we are about to hire 1,000 people internationally. We want to make them feel something because we really need to drive our retention. We need to onboard these people faster. And we're about to make a big expansion and scale. And we don't want to have turnover, and we need these people to become profitable as fast as possible. So what we do from there, if we can get all that information out from a client, that's the business of the business of the business problem they're trying to solve, then we can reverse engineer what product or products, how to kit it, how it should be shipped, what should be the insert and the messaging inside, how do you incentivize it, how do you put hashtags to it, how do you create content to it, so we can give you that full inspiring brand experience that increases the odds that you get the outcome you're looking for, which is if you're about to hire 1,000 people internationally, you know that you don't hire 1,000 to keep 1,000. But what you would ultimately like to do is to come as close to that number as possible, which means that you have to hire the right people. You have to get them to have a tremendous experience. You have to get them trained, which means you have to have their attention. You have to get them retained so they make it past that 90-day period, which means, again, you need to have their attention. So we're not going to come in and solve those business problems for an organization. We know that. But what we can do is latch on to the business problem you're trying to solve and to increase the odds by creating a much more pleasurable experience in that regard. So whether it's a recruiting problem, or let's say it's more brand attention or brand awareness, or let's say you've got a culture problem in your organization, we're not going to focus on what product we can sell to you. We're going to focus on, why are you trying to solve that issue with the culture? What's going on? What's the reaction? If you solve the problem in the culture, how does it impact retention, recruiting, revenue, profitability, EBITDA, value to the organization? We want to know those things. And then if we know what the end goal is, that will make you more successful in your role, you more successful in your career, your brand more successful, and ultimately will inspire and reap benefits for the stakeholders, that's where we go. And then we can reverse engineer and place product that we think will have the best likelihood of stimulating all those other things. Now, the cool thing is we compete with 24,000 companies where probably only 200 of them even scratch the surface of thinking that way. The rest of the folks out there, and I'm not bashing competition, they just might not have this philosophy on their brand of how they sell and how they teach like Club Colors does. And their methodology would be, client goes, we need 1,000 promotional products for this event we're doing. They say, great, what's your budget? When do you need them by? And are you thinking apparel or promotional product? Client goes, well, I don't know which is best. They go, I think promotional product. They've got a great deal with a supplier. The last 3 products that come out, they show the same 3 products because they've got something going with the supplier, and they push that product, and that product will have no impact on that greater goal that organization is trying to solve, which is why they've allocated budget to purchase those products. So all they're doing is moving product with a logo on it. And guess what? The client then goes, we spent $15,000, still have the same problem. Eventually then they go, well, we should look at this other company, Club Colors. Then we get on the phone with them and go, why are you talking to us? What's important to you? We know you've been buying promotional products from other people. Why now? Why are you looking at us? Why are you changing? What are you trying to solve? What's the impact you're trying to have for the stakeholders? How would it make your life better? What's your culture like? We get on board with what those actual business of the business initiatives are in the organization. And then we place product. And that might mean saying, don't buy 1,000 of those at $15 a piece. Buy 250 of these and 250 of these at a much more premium level, and give them out to the people that are brand champions at your organization, and then give something at a lower level to market to the masses where everybody gets one, but make sure that those people you're really trying to inspire and impact to achieve that outcome that you're looking for your organization, that they get the premium thing that really has that wow factor. So we actually end up having clients spend more money with us and for a longer period of time, because we're creating a better brand experience, an inspiring brand experience for them. And that's the key. And branding, you know what branding is all about? It's about getting people to buy more from you at a higher price over a longer period of time at a higher level of success. That's what it's about, right? Otherwise, you're in a price war and it's a race to the bottom. And so that's the difference maker for us.
Well, I love this last thing I wanted to talk about today was the closing champion belt. You said, quote, any successful company that grows, creates traditions, sticks to traditions, takes them seriously, and battles for them as a team each month, unquote. Most people have heard the quote, and I think you referred to this a little earlier. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. What difference has that belt made to your team each month?
Well, I mean, I don't know how much the belt itself has made the thing. The belt is the symbol, right? It's the thing that sits at the salesperson's desk for a month. So anybody who comes in for a tour, anybody who is walking through, a new recruit who comes in, the CEOs, when they make their way around the building and look around, right? It becomes a conversation piece, which allows for that salesperson to have about 30 days of limelight put on them where they feel a little pop of energy. Moreover, with Zoom calls, they have it present on the Zoom call. So every time they're on with a prospective client or a current client, the prospective client or current client goes, what's that belt? Well, I just won the belt. I had the highest percentage of budget, highest level of success, best satisfaction rating on all those different things. And the client goes, great, I had something to do with that. Yeah, because of your order, I won this. Now the client goes, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I could be a part of your success. They're no longer a transaction now. They're on the journey with you, man. That's what it's about, right? But moreover, what we turn to see, a lot of companies, the mistake that they make is the person will win the number and they'll give them something, or give them like a little plaque or acknowledgement, and they'll send it out to them. But there's no conversation, there's no heart, there's no feel.
Right.
So we block off a half hour once a month and we have a ceremony. We read off all the stats, talk about that person's journey, how hard they had to fight to get to those numbers, because we don't want newer salespeople or other salespeople coming in and going, well, they only got the belt that month because they have those clients that spent that month. You know what I mean? Like, so the sales manager takes the time to go, I watched them get here at 7 and stay till 6. I watched their call count go up by X amount. I watched them have to overcome supply chain issues. I watched them have to overcome decoration issues and production issues and have to maneuver. I watched the client change their mind 10 times and they hung in there with class and character and a smile on their face and embraced it to get the client the right solution. So we tell that story. And what does that do? It messages to the rest of the team what it takes to be a success at Club Colors beyond hitting quota. It's all the core values, the core principles, the way that we speak, the way that we engage with clients, the way that we make people feel. That is so much bigger and more important than the belt. The belt is symbolic, much like a logo for a brand is your symbol. It's your icon. It's just recognizable. Oh, I know that brand because I see their logo. Doesn't tell you the story of that brand. What are their core principles? What are their core values? How do their people speak? How does somebody answer the phone? How do they end a call? How do they write an email? How do they respond to great and horrible situations? All that explanation. It gives that level of detail. So that's where it really comes in. So what's the impact been? The impact has been that we've seen a 20, 30, 40% year over year growth for the last 5 years. And by the way, in COVID time, which traditionally marketing and promotional products and advertising in a difficult economic situation or a world pandemic tend to get kind of tabled. Now, is that because we implemented a belt or a ceremony? No, but what it does is it creates a momentum and an energy. And if you can get one person that is standing around and hearing that to be 15% more motivated and inspired than they were prior to seeing that, then the $200 that we spent on the belt, right, 5 years ago, and the the half hour a month that we take to recognize the staff is paid for in itself. What we've gotten is far greater return. And you know what's amazing? You know what's made us recognizable on content creation and helped people to dig into our brand and help somebody like a Michael Zellner go, I should reach out to this John Morris guy and have him talk about club colors? Because they saw that. If I would have posted a cup like this that said, we sell these at this price point, we can get it in your color, that doesn't stop the scroll. You see a salesperson holding up a belt, you're like, what is this about? So you read the post, you go look at the company page. It then gives me an opportunity to get on and talk to you for an hour about who we are and what we do, and potentially rub off and inspire and create some sort of impact on whoever the listener is, that maybe they should do something like that at their company, or maybe they should reach out to Club Colors to help them do it for their brand. So it's not just the short-term impact on the person, it's all the other people that experience it, but it also is showing what we do internally to the external, which causes people to feel like they know our brand before they know our brand. And when they are at the point of making a decision to make a change, what brand am I going to change to? Guess who's on the top of their mind? So all of a sudden we get calls that we may not have gotten before because people go, all I hear is Club Colors, Club Colors, Club Colors, Club Colors. They should at least be in the bid process. And that's all we're asking for. We are not right for everybody, but we are right to have an opportunity to bid on every job. Give us one shot to bid on a job. If we earn it, we'll probably earn the next 1,000. If we don't earn it, we'll part as friends. But you can't give us the one shot if you don't know who we are and how we think, and if we're not endearing to you and passionate enough about you, because you'll never get to the point of knowing what our actual true solutions are. And our true solutions are that we latch onto your brand and become an extension of it with the latest and greatest technology, the best passion and energetic people that have the greatest class and character and deliver at the highest rate. I can say that all I want on content creation. It doesn't mean a damn thing because I got to show it to you once. The best way for me to get your attention is through that type of content creation. So you go, you know what? I'm intrigued. Let's give them one shot. So that's why we present our brand in this manner.
What are the most important lessons that you've learned in your life?
One of, or what are?
Just, a few of them. What were some of those lessons? If you could think of a few.
It's not about you, but sometimes it's got to be about you. Being extremely loyal is one of the greatest qualities that you could have. Don't let it get to the point of being a fault. Advocate for yourself. Always advocate for yourself. Because the reality is, if you don't advocate for yourself, it's unlikely that others will, even if they tell you they are. No matter what you do or how hard you do it, how successful you are or how much you fail, your family will still be there. So put them first, because they are your ride or dies. And whatever your role is in an organization, don't do the role. Be a brand champion. You could be a person who works a machine, and you could become a source of brand awareness and brand attention that offers you job security, that offers you an opportunity for a promotion. You could be an accountant at an organization, nothing to do with the tip of spear, but you could tell stories about the culture at your organization. You could tell stories about the experience you have, and you could become a fantastic brand champion that ends up being a recruiting mechanism for the organization, which now breaks the tie in any promotion with one of your peers. If you're a salesperson, stop waiting for marketing to send you leads. Create your own leads by building a personal brand and telling your story. If you're in marketing, sell. You can create your personal brand and go out and create lead generation and bring people to the sales team that are darn near already closed. Sales teams just got to take them over the top. That's going to elevate you. So no matter who you are, no matter what role you have, don't just do the role. The reason that I'm in the role that I'm in now is never because I wanted the role. I never wanted. I had no idea what an executive director of brand is or a CBO. No intention. I'm a sales guy, man. That's what I am. And I'm a leader. I'm a coach. I coach teams. That's what I do. I got into this role because I was the director of sales and I was looking for a way to make it easier for us to get sales. I wanted clients to know who we were before we talked to them on the business development side, so we didn't have to break ice with them for 15 minutes. And then the sales meeting runs short. I wanted to be able to have a client that was a cold prospect get on a call with us and go, I see you guys everywhere. What's going on? To make the lead easier. I wanted to not have to go outbound all the time. I wanted calls to come inbound. So the reason that I'm in the role right now is not because I wanted to be in this role. I never aspired to be in this role. There was never a goal to be in this role. The only reason I started a podcast with Club Colors or for Club Colors is because I was a director of sales and I wanted to tell stories of success the sales department was having with our current clients to motivate prospective clients to want to do business with us. And it turned into a way to create brand awareness and brand attention. So remember that every day is a job interview for the next day. And that's in life or in business. Every single day is just an interview for the next one. And you never know what's going to come of it. So don't do the role that you're in. Think beyond the role that you're in. Think about how you can make the role that you're in easier. Innovate. Go above and beyond, right? And that doesn't mean slack on the things that you're doing. But what it does mean is you'll win all the tiebreakers. You'll be thought of first for the promotion, or you might have a job invented for you because you were doing that. Those would be some of the lessons. And call your mom.
How can people
Because
find
when you can't call your mom, you'll wish you could.
Right. How can people find you on social media if they're interested in working with Club Colors and also find your podcast?
Yeah, so In the Club, powered by Club Colors, is on Apple, Spotify, and our Club Colors YouTube page. So please smash the subscribe button on our YouTube page or download it on Apple or Spotify. The whole premise of the podcast is not about Club Colors. It's about our guests, much the way that Michael runs this podcast. And thank you for doing that. You give me a great platform to be able to speak my truth, or at least versions of the truth to some certain level, right? We never can tell the complete truth, right? But that was a joke. But the idea of In the Club podcast is to promote all the fantastic people out there that are doing great things for their brand. And there's a lot of great stories in there, and there's a lot of great ideas and a lot of great thought leadership. www.clubcolors.com. You can check us out. We've got a pretty great webpage. You can take a look at that, or take our logo challenge, which if you go on my LinkedIn profile and you go down to my features, you can look at, there's a podcast, swipe over to the right, and there's a logo challenge. Click on that, and I will send you a free item of your choosing that is listed on the page. Could be a vest like this. All you have to do is upload your logo. We'll embroider your logo on there and send it to you within 5 to 7 days, so you can see the difference in how we operate. It's our point of entry. You'll get a free product with your beautiful logo on it, and you'll get the Club Colors experience, and hopefully that earns us the opportunity to do business with you further.
We connected on LinkedIn, a few months ago, and I love the positive content that you post, and a lot of what you post on there and a lot of what you said today hits home with me, because I'm one of those people, all or nothing kind of guys too. Yeah. And so I really appreciate what you're, trying to do. And I know that you have to have influenced a lot of people, on LinkedIn and your podcast, and the people that you work with at Club Colors. I know that you're such a great role model for those people. And so, I really appreciate you coming on today. This has been a lot of fun.
Appreciate it, Michael. Let me leave you with one thing. Those of you that want to post, talk to yourself in the post. Most of the things that I post are because I am telling myself that I need to be better. I am telling myself to strive for this. I am not posting from a position that I do it, that I'm a master at it or an expert at it, or in any way coming across as perfect. It would be very difficult for me to come up with content. In fact, most of the things that I'm posting, it's because I'm posting almost like journaling, where I'm telling the stories of my present and what I aspire to be in the future. And it also allows me to then go back and scroll back and read some of those things and go, look, that's what you were talking about. Look at how you've grown from there, right? So not everything that you post has to be a pitch to a client, has to be, you coming from the position of an expert. That's why I think authentic and vulnerable is important, because if you post from the posture of, I'm just talking to myself right now, it will resonate with other people. People will latch onto that, and you will inspire other people, but you ultimately will be able to go back and look at that and find value in it for yourself. And it might be that validation that maybe you're not getting from others, that you actually are getting from your past self.
Awesome. Appreciate your time, buddy.
Cheers, Michael.
Thank you.